Alright, so in this video we're checking out the new Pavo30 Cinewhoop from BETAFPV. So essentially this is a 3-inch version of the very popular Beta 95X, which is a 2.5-inch propeller. And so this obviously going to be a little bit bigger. I got the same inverted type of motors here. Frame is similar in design to the 95X, you can see here. Plastic with some carbon underneath. I'll show you that here in a second. Obviously, it's going to be a fair amount heavier, and we have some bigger motors now as well. So I recently did the 1404 motor upgrade for the 95X. I'll link that video down in the description if you missed that video. But basically, people wanted bigger motors than the 95X, and now they have bigger motors. And if you want bigger props, go to a 3-inch. This is the version to get. The frame, itself here is plastic. Not sure how that's going to hold up over time, if you're going to be bashing it around, crashing a lot. Probably it's not going to last. I mean, they do have, if you see how it's hollowed out here, in between the outer part here and the inner part, so it does have some give to take some, take a little bit of abuse, but if you fail safe this from 100 feet up and it's smashed onto concrete, it's definitely breaking because there's no other reinforcement here, no carbon or anything like that on the outside. Obviously, the outer frame will break. There's an inner frame that is not that easy to see. You can see right there. That's actually holding the motors to the plastic parts, so it does give it some stiffness and extra strength. You can see it's right there as well. That's where the battery strap goes through. But then on the top part here is the screws and the plastic part for the frame that hold the motor on. And now they have the Vista here on the bottom instead of in the back on the 95X. Not sure if it makes much of a difference in terms of CG or not, but there's nothing preventing air blockage here in the back in terms of the Vista on the 95X. People were saying that it was blocking air, which it does a little bit. In terms of intake, but it doesn't really matter too much because it's a pusher and all the air gets pushed on the bottom. So the motors on here are 1506 3000 kV. This is the DJI version. The analog version has 1505, I think 3300 kV, a little higher kV. And they use the same props. These 5-bladed 3-inch, or I think these are the D63 props, I believe. They come with like an adapter that will convert them from the T-style to the 5mm type of prop. And I don't know. I think for 3-inch on something like this, they probably should have picked a different motor. I would have gone with the 2004 motor over the 1506. But a lot of the Cinewhoops in the 3-inch class use the 1507 motor, and I just now starting to see a transition to 3-inch Cinewhoops using the 2004 motor. Of course, it's a personal choice, so you basically have a wider stator for a little bit more control. Now, this setup here is fairly light compared to a lot of other 3-inch Cinewhoops out there. 173 grams without the camera. So maybe 1506 is good enough, maybe. I mean, it felt fine. I felt like I had pretty decent control with this motor and this weight setup here. Although I have been playing around with the 2004 motors on some other custom Cinewhoops that you haven't seen yet, that I'm still experimenting with, still getting a feel for those. So I'll have a video on that later. If you guys are wondering why you haven't seen these, because I'm still sort of flying them around and getting my thoughts together on how they fly compared to the 1507 and 1506 motors. And I'm thinking 2004 motors are probably better and the way to go. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below if you've flown 2004 motors on a 3-inch Cinewhoop. Anyway, so this one here has the Nebula Nano camera, but this little part here is replaceable if you want to use a micro camera instead. And they give you an adapter right there, so they'll fit in 19mm. So if you use the Nebula Micro or the Nebula Pro camera, just swap this one in for that. They do have a little adapter here for the HD camera, so this cable here is already pre-installed, works with a SMO 4K camera, but if you want to use a naked GoPro, that's what that adapter is for. and then you have a right angled adapter for your USB port. The USB port for the flight controller is right there, and yeah, the right angle adapter works, but it's kind of a hassle to get in there. The USB port for the Vista is right here, and it's kind of hard to see. It's right there. And you're going to need to probably have a cable that doesn't have a really big like plastic piece on the end to get it in there, or you're going to have to take the motor off. I was able to get in there with a very thin USB Type-C cable to do the firmware update and the registration. So that worked for me, but it is a very tight fit to get in there, although you'll have to do it one time. And then your crossfire receiver, rotary receiver, is going to be in this little spot right here. And you can see the bind button is easily accessible. They're just running the antenna here in the back for the crossfire. And then they have the little stubby antenna here in the back for your VTX antenna. So left-handed for the, obviously for the digital, and right-handed for the analog. The same mounting system for the SMO 4K camera, as you see here with the rubber grommets, but now they have these little screws that go all the way through. And you can see the nut there on the bottom. And these are just, I think it's a nylon screw, goes all the way through. One of the complaints on 95X is that on a crash, this will pop off, and then you'll have to put them back on. So that's why they put those screws on there to give it a little bit more stiffness. And also, if you need a little bit more vibration dampening, you can just tighten up those screws a little bit more. But of course, if it's too tight, then you're going to get jello in your video. So it's kind of a compromise. Still, the FPV camera is fixed or hard mounted here, so if you don't have a good pitch tune, you might get some jello. Less of a jello of an issue, jello is less of an issue now with the bigger motors because it's a little bit more in control. But I think you can still see it a little bit in the feed. It's not really that bad. The pitch tunes on here is okay. It's pretty typical. Not the greatest pitch tune, but it's workable, and not much better than the first pit tune that came out of the box for the 95X V3. This one seems okay, but I think it has more to do with the fact that it's got a much bigger power setup and not as much weight, so that's why it probably flies a lot better than before. Anyway, so the flight controller in here, I think it's the same F7 flight controller. It's an F722, obviously the all-in-one whip style flight controller board. You can't quite get in there to see it. It is 35 amps, and I believe it is BLTE-S only. I'm not 100% that they didn't really give me a whole lot of specs on all the equipment in here, but I'm pretty sure it's the same flight controllers on the 95X V3. Anyway, so not a whole lot, no more to say about this. It flies decently, not the greatest in the world. I think I would have preferred to see 2004 motors on here instead of the 1506 motors, but who knows? Probably in a month or two, they'll probably see a 2004 motor upgrade for this one, I imagine, or a 2004 version, maybe the whatever this Pavo30 V2. If you wait a month or two, a new version or revision or something will come out. They're constantly tweaking their product all the time. So for those of you guys that don't like that, then just wait. Wait a couple months and then something new will come around the corner, because that's going to happen eventually. Okay, so it was 173 grams without the camera, but then with the camera here, it is coming in. Okay, I need to put a little spacer in there. 212.5 grams, and then I flew with a 4S 850 battery. That's they recommend 4S 750 or 850, so this is the way I flew it, and all up it's at 320. So yeah, right here you can see this is set up. It is over the 250 gram limit, so if that's important to you, then you're probably going to have to stick to the 95X V3 or something smaller. Now, the flight time you can expect to get on a 4S 850 is probably going to be around 6.5 minutes, depending on the battery, of course, that you're using, and also the flying conditions and how windy it is. So the flight demo that I'm going to show you here is fairly windy. It's not like incredibly windy, but it's pretty windy for a Cinewhoop, and it seems to handle it okay. But I think because of the wind, it just kind of cut the flight time down a little bit shorter. So I would say in sort of non-ideal conditions, maybe you expect a reduction of a minute in your flight time. And if you're doing a lot of like sort of racing type flying with a lot of full throttle punch outs, and if you're trying to fly acro, probably a further reduction in your flight time depending on what battery you're using as well. Anyway, here's the flight footage. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.